Hi everyone, how's it going? Hope you guys are excited, because I am excited. All right, so I guess we can get started. So my name is Xing Han, and I work in software development at Plotly as part of the Dash team. Today I'm presenting you Dash Cytoscape, a component I created and that I've been working on for the past 7-8 months. So yeah, some of you might be unfamiliar with what Dash is. Dash combines reactive UI components that are directly ported from React, and it also combines the backend Flask microservers as well as Plotly's own JavaScript interactive graphs to create simple but scalable web apps. As a matter of fact, they are all accessible through Python, and that's really what makes it so unique. Most of you probably already know, but Dash is open source, and it's licensed as an MIT software, which means that it is freely used by any of you, and it's freely accessible through GitHub. So the libraries that Plotly has been developing, so that includes Dash, but also Plotly.js or Plotly.py, which some of you might have used before. So all of those are open sourced, including Dash Cytoscape, which is what I'm showing you today. And 50% of our staff at Plotly are working directly on open source work so that it's accessible for everyone. This is possible because we are funded by commercial partners, as well as funding through a few of our commercial products. So, for example, Dash Cytoscape itself was made possible because some of our partners decided to fund us on this project, and this is why it's open source now. For example, if you're interested, you can visit plot.ly/dash/pricing. I'll just post the link in the chat so you can have access to it if you're interested. That's a way for you to use Dash in an enterprise setting and to receive support and 24 hours service for this. It also lets you access the Dash deployment servers, which are a server that are dedicated to host Dash apps, which makes your life easy. And the reason why we are offering that is because we want to provide you an easy way to host your Dash beyond just local use or just sharing it as a simple app. So we've also been working on making really nicely designed Dash apps, and that's why we created the Dash Design Kit, which lets you create really nice looking apps with zero CSS required. Yeah, you can check out the website. I'll post the link as well here. And it's really nice looking, and I've myself tried it a bit, and I would love to incorporate some of the apps I've created in the past using that the DDK. So yeah, I encourage all of you to check this out. And every license that we sell means that it's supporting an open source project that we are working on. So let's get started with what you've come today for, which is Dash Cytoscape. So what is Dash Cytoscape? It's an interactive network visualization library written in Python, and it is powered by Cytoscape.js and Dash. So it is a declarative library And it is also very Pythonic, as you'll see soon in a couple of minutes. And it's also callbacks ready, which means that if you're familiar with Dash callbacks, then Dash Cytoscape is going to be really easy to learn because it heavily uses callbacks to make it more interactive. So here you can see the Dash Medium article, and you can see really examples of what you can create with Dash Cytoscape. So I'll post this link as well on the in the chat. And don't worry, if you are watching a replay of this video, we're going to provide all those links in the comments section. So yeah, don't worry about this. And yeah, you can see you can create really nice animation with different types of ways of laying out your networks. And that's what makes it interactive. The Medium article goes over the most important aspects on the higher level of Dash Cytoscape. So if you want to know if a specific feature is there that you want to try out, then you can check out this Medium article. This is really simple examples and pictures of really nice networks you can create. Here, you are going to find the link for an online style editor. If you forgot the link, then no worries. Just go on the Medium article and click in here. And you can see this really nice editor here. So we're going to go more in depth about styling in a moment. But in this case, you are given the option to basically try out an interactive way of modifying your networks. So you can see maybe you want to create a grid layout, and maybe the gray coloring is a bit boring for you. So you might want to change it to, I don't know, red. Or maybe change the opacity of your nodes so that you can really see what's happening in the background. And check out the editor for sure. It includes tons of parameters you can modify, including background images and pie charts. So there's over 100 parameters you can modify, and you can also access the JSON of the style sheet. And in a moment, we'll see what this is about, but you can easily just copy this and paste it in your code. So I mentioned earlier that it's open source. So you must be wondering, where is it? Where can I download it and use the code? Well, you can just Google Dash Cytoscape. And the first thing that comes up is the GitHub repository we have. And here you can see the entire code base of the project. This is the README, and let's quickly go over it. This is an interactive example that you will see more of later. Same for this one. You can dynamically expand your graph. So at the beginning, you start, and every time you click on a node, it just expands it. So this is really exciting because if you look at this example, whenever you click on a node, it's going to display all of the followers of a certain Google Plus user. And unfortunately, Google Plus doesn't exist anymore. But when it did, the Stanford group collected a data set on those users and created a massive network connecting all of those users. If you look at the entire network, then it is pretty overwhelming. But with Dash Cytoscape, you are able to just interactively display everything. To get started, it's really simple. You just need to make sure Dash is correctly installed. This is a slightly older version of Dash, but you can also use a more recent version. Or you can try out older version, but we can't really guarantee it's going to work correctly. However, the simplest way to install it is to use is to do pip install dash Cytoscape. So I'm just gonna go over a very simple example. So I'm gonna activate the VM that I created for this webinar. Yeah, activating virtual environments is pretty annoying in Windows. So let's just go in a very fresh directory and let's just pip install dash Cytoscape. So you see, as soon as we install this library, all of the requirements were already satisfied. So installing it was really quick. That means if you already have Dash, then it just takes a few seconds to install. If you want to create a new virtual environment, then it's going to take more time, but that's fine. Now we can open app.py with Atom, and then we're going to go back to this in a moment. So you see, this, you can just literally copy paste this code, and it's pretty straightforward. You create the app layout with html.dev, so make sure that html.dev is installed correctly, and then you just initialize the object. You tell them what elements you want. So an element can be a node, or it can be an edge. And in here, we're just creating two simple nodes on the first two lines, and an edge on the second line. We're going to go over this more in a moment. So I just paste this code here, and then I can try to run it. And it should show up in your browser very quickly. So 127, 8050. So it's still taking a bit of time to load, but once you load it, it's pretty quick. We also included a very thorough user guide for you to try out Dash Cytoscape. Here, we're going to go over this in a moment. But if you're pretty familiar with Dash, or already familiar with Dash Cytoscape after you've used for a while, but you keep forgetting what exactly you should input, then you can check out the reference, which is at the end of the user guide. Or you can find it in the GitHub README. If you just want to learn more about Dash in general, you can check out the Dash documentation, which is included here. And finally, you can also visit the Cytoscape.js documentation, which is absolutely awesome. It was a great job done by Max at the Cytoscape Consortium. So yeah, what is Cytoscape Consortium? It's the original consortium that created the Cytoscape project, which at the start was a Java application on your desktop, and then it expanded to include also a JavaScript API, which lets you integrate Cytoscape graphs, so exactly the ones you saw earlier, but in the JavaScript environment. And that was great, that was amazing. You can render Cytoscape directly in your browser, no string attached. You don't need jQuery, you don't need any dependency. And we felt that was an amazing project. And we want to give a declarative option that also integrates well with Dash, and that also works in Python. This is why we created Dash Cytoscape as an extension of Cytoscape.js, which is why we say it's powered by Cytoscape.js, because when it renders in the browser, we use Cytoscape.js, but for you, you just need to code it in Python. You don't need any knowledge of React or Cytoscape. So let's look at the app we just created. Oh, it's running correctly now in the So yeah, Usually it takes a bit less time to load it correctly, but my computer is a bit slow today because I'm running the webinar at the same time. So you see, you can just, very simple graph, and you wrote that in 40-something lines. And all of this is described in depth in the user guide. So let's go in the user guide. This is a document you're going to need to refer to whenever you want to learn a new concept in Dash Cytoscape. We included interactive examples here that you can yourself use, and that's rendered directly using the code above, which means that you can literally copy paste this code in your browser, in your editor, and just run it. And this should be the output it gives. Now, the user guide is broken down in a few chapters. The first one goes over what Cytoscape elements are. So when you read this and you are not sure what it means, you're going to learn more about it inside the elements chapter. But just quickly, this is simply a dictionary that tells Cytoscape what you want to input. The data, which contains another smaller dictionary, you give it an ID and a label that is displayed on top. And then you give it a position on where you want to display it on the screen, which in this case is 75 and 200 for the second node. I moved it a bit, so that's why it's not like this anymore. And the third line here is the dictionary precising the edge between those two nodes. And you can see you start with a source and you end with a target. And all of this is described in depth in the elements chapter. You can try out the interactive examples, and it's even going to link you to some really nice examples. So yeah. Now you might want to display your graph in a specific way. So what if you want to display it in a circle or inside a grid? So we start by showing you what the random layout looks like, and then we go over what a circle layout is. And this is really just give it a dictionary that says what name of the layout is and what you want exactly. We have a few names that are provided by default. So those are the built-in layouts. I believe there's about 7 of those that you can use by default. And if you want to add more, then you're free to modify the source code to add a layout that you found. I would recommend basic knowledge of Cytoscape.js and React if you're going to start modifying the source code. But if you don't need, then you don't need any of those knowledge. You can just really read the user guide, and it's going to go over everything you need to know to simply use Dash Cytoscape. Now, this is just examples of other layouts. This is a grid layout. This is a grid layout that I forced it to have exactly 3 rows. And this is a circle, but only with a starting angle and a certain radius. So that way it's only part of the circle. And you can find more examples of those. There's tons of layout included here. Now, you saw the really nice example we had earlier here, where you have those really nicely colored nodes and edges. To do that, you need to use the styling. There's a parameters called stylesheet inside the Cytoscape object where you have to feed in a list of dictionaries, where each dictionary tells you what aspects of the graph you want to style. So let's quickly go over it. If I just explain it like this, there won't be much to say. So you see here, the style sheet, as I mentioned, is a list and you can choose what you want to modify. So say the node, and then you can see what the style should be. And then you can select certain classes, and you can select other very specific things. So for example, you can select a node by its ID, by its class that you have to assign inside your elements. And also you can select it by which parent it has if it's a compound node, which you can also learn more about in the user guide. And what if you just try out this example? Let's see what this is going to look like inside our code. This is the code we wrote earlier, and we can just add the style sheet here and just paste this, right? Maybe just add a bit of indentation so it looks nicer. Now, this is a very simple node, right? We want to select the node, and then we want the background to be red. Let's see what the app is going to look like now. It should update in just a second. You see, it just updated to red, and you can just choose a lot of aspects. You can change the shape, you can change the size, and you can even add an image in the background if you want. It's absolutely customizable, and all that is also available in Cytoscape.js if you ever want to try it out. And then I mentioned that it was a callback, that Cytoscape was callback ready. So what does that mean? It means that you can use other Dash components to modify Cytoscape. Or you can even use Cytoscape to modify other Dash components. So let's go through a very simple example, but I would suggest you to read over this chapter. It really goes in depth. So you see here, I really just add a callback that says, update the layout of the graph, of the network. And then I can choose a random layout, a circle layout, and a concentric layout. Obviously, I had to use animated is true. By default, it's false, but once you set it to true, then you can see those animation, and you can even give how long you want it to be animated. Furthermore, you also have those Cytoscape events. So why do I call it event callback? Is because those callbacks are fired and can be used to modify other Dash components. And they are fired whenever you interact with the graph, with the network. So here, when you tap on the node, then we are going to use a callback. Just here, very simple callback to update HTML.pray, a little like box here that says what ID it has and what label it has. And then you can even extend it to more complex examples, such as displaying what you're hovering currently and what group of nodes you're selecting. So what I did here was select all of those nodes using, this example, Select all of those nodes using Shift and then click and drag. The goal of Cytoscape originally, that was 10 years ago when the software was made, was to use it in the computational biology settings. And we wanted to also further this by integrating Cytoscape with BioPython. You can check out the online demo here and the source code right here for the example. It's all included in the user guide. Here we just slowly go over what the phylogeny, so how we're integrating with BioPython to create phylogenetic trees. using Cytoscape. And we've written a function to help you do that. And you can easily reuse the function to display BioPython trees. So this tree is also interactive. If you hover over it, it's going to highlight what you want. And you can also zoom in and zoom out. Let's compare it with BioPython. So if you check out BioPython, just here. So yeah, this is the source code that I use to create phylogeny. And you can really just use this function, which is a pretty lengthy function, to automatically transfer your phylogeny object into a list of elements for your app. So yeah, now let's take a look at BioPython. More specifically, the phyllo object. You can check out the link here. We just Google BioPython space phyllo, and this is an amazing library that has been maintained for over 10 years, and it's unique to Python. And particularly the phyllo API of BioPython lets you create really nice phylogenetic trees. And they also let you display them using matplotlib or using an ASCII character. So, but you see, this image is static. You can't really zoom in and zoom out, and you can only render it inside an image. The BioPython library is great, but we also wanted to make it interactive and easier to navigate, since those resources, there's already software for you to interactively explore those phylogeny tree. But there's no API in Python that lets you do that easily. And Dash Cytoscape kind of helps out for this. Yeah, there's also other methods like drawing it unrooted that you can easily reproduce in Cytoscape as well. This is the ASCII drawing I was mentioning earlier. We also want to eventually support networkX, which is an amazing library for manipulating networks in Python. At the moment, we don't have any support for that, but we're working really hard to get there. However, we know that in the network, there's some members of the networkX library among you, like the Dash community. And if you feel that you want this feature to arrive quickly, then I really encourage you to check out the issues and comment on the issues, and even open a pull request and just really add a new feature that you feel might be useful. This really will make things go faster. So definitely check out networkX. This is pretty much the best library for network manipulations in Python. I mentioned earlier about checking out the issues. So once you go on the Plotly GitHub and look in the issue section, you can see a few issues that I tagged as future work, including adding support for networkX and more support for JavaScript specific elements. So yeah, if you have any question, not as much as issues that you want to raise, but questions about how to use Dash Cytoscape, then you can check out the community forum for Dash. And this is going to go over, and you can just really sign up and then add a new post and just tell what you have in mind. Or if you just have a really nice app you want to show, you can also show it there. That's pretty much it. So I'm gonna include the links in the description. So if I don't post it now, I'll post it later in the YouTube video. and hope you guys and girls enjoyed the event, the webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye.